Welcome in, folks. They are on to week 13, the week before the final week of the regular season. So we're getting ready to push into those playoffs. So hopefully your teams are ready and making that moves and going on to doing those playoff seeds. So it is myself, Justin Muller, along with Jeremy Schulman. We are talking about quarterbacks and tight ends the week of Thanksgiving. So make sure to get those rankings in early because this happens every week or every year. Someone will forget their lineups because of all the Thanksgiving games. We have 3 games early. So make sure you pay attention to that, and then we have the games following that.
True.
All that said, how you doing on this holiday weekend, Jeremy?
Gobble, gobble, motherfucker.
Could have said it better myself. I'm waiting for the Christmas so we can be like, yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. Just,
That's it, yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about these lovely, lovely quarterbacks that we got. And there are some juicy matchups for the early guys. So we're going to be doing what we do. The tiers are always in 6. So our tier 1 quarterback, we're starting out. Our quarterbacks 1 through quarterback 6. Starting out, our consensus QB1 is Jalen Hurts. We both, Jeremy and myself, have him 1. FC has him 2. Our quarterback 2, with a ridiculously good matchup, is Baker Mayfield going against Carolina Panthers.
Yes.
Our quarterback 3, Josh Allen, is going up against the San Francisco 49ers. Quarterback 4, Lamar Jackson going against Philadelphia Eagles, and that is a juicy matchup for those two. We have 2 top 4 guys in that one. Our quarterback 5, Justin Herbert, who has been lights out, had a little bit of a down game last week, but still, Atlanta Falcons, you can go all over those guys. And our quarterback 6, Patrick Mahomes, is back in our tier 1 of quarterback. What is happening in 2024? He's finally back. Why don't you talk about the guy you want to highlight in this tier, Jeremy?
God, there's so many guys here. I'll talk about 2. First, Baker Mayfield at 2. He's I'm the lowest on him of the 3 of us, but he's playing Carolina, right? So who cares? Tampa Bay is going to be able to do whatever the hell they want to do in this one against that defense. I know they were better last week, but we know the Chiefs haven't been completely right. And then Carolina, of course, just let Noah Gray score 2 touchdowns on them. So Mike Evans, Cade Otton, the 2 backs, all of those guys are viable. You can get funky with the Jalen McMillan. You don't have to because there's no bye weeks this week. So you probably won't. But I think that could be interesting as well. But certainly those 4 guys, if fire up, Baker's going to go off. I think he's going to throw at least 3 touchdowns. And then the other guy we can talk about, if I can find my consensus ranks note we haven't had. Okay, there it is Justin Herbert at Atlanta. Absolutely going off. But Justin Herbert faces a team with no pass rush. And so that is really going to help him. And thankfully for Justin Herbert owners, the Chargers may have no running game. So it's really going to work out to be a perfect storm. If Quentin Johnston can only catch the damn football, things could have been a lot better for the Chargers. They should have won that damn game. Johnston should have converted on that 3rd down toward the end. They should have marched down, at least tied it. But yeah, I'm going Herbert. I love Herbert, and I love Baker this week.
Yeah, I mean, Herbert is fantastic. The one problem you're seeing with that Chargers offense is they need another person to step forward. They want to be Quentin Johnston, but that man has butter fingers just like you won't believe. So it's not working out, but it's so close to being there. I saw something about them signing T. Higgins, and I think that would be the perfect fit. Obviously, every team wants to sign T. Higgins at this point because he's playing out of his mind. But yeah, it's a really good group. I think SC has Baker Mayfield as our quarterback 1 overall, which may seem spicy, with every game Mike Evans has played, Baker Mayfield is a top 8 quarterback. Right? He's like 7 out of 8 games, top 8 quarterback. So you know what you're getting, man. It's probably going to be 3 touchdowns. It's going to be a light show. Let's go to tier 2. Our quarterback 7 through our quarterbacks 12. This tier starts out with Joe Burrow in a tough matchup against Pittsburgh. You think we'd all be kind of lower on him? I think the lowest we have is him is 8. It's right between 6 and 8. We just really like Joe Burrow in that offense. Our quarterback 8, Jaden Daniels, is starting to fall in our rankings a little bit. He's going against Tennessee. Tennessee's defense, even though they're missing L'Jarius Sneed and all that, they're still it's still a tough matchup for him. Quarterback 9, this one probably surprised a lot of people. It's CJ Stroud, because CJ Stroud has been abysmal this year, but he's going up against the best matchup you can get, the Jacksonville Jaguars defense. They get the most fancy points in the league, so that is why we have him there. Our quarterback 10, Mr. Bo Nix, even in a decent matchup against Cleveland, he's top 10. He's got to lock and load him as a QB1 at this point. Our quarterback 11 is Kyler Murray. Struggled against the Seahawks last week. Has a tough matchup against the Vikings. We'll see if he can bounce back or if it's more up and down like it's been for Murray. And our guy rounding out tier 2 is Anthony Richardson going up against your New England Patriots, Jeremy. Who are you kind of higher on and who are you lower on this tier 2?
A-Rich is super interesting because he's a running quarterback. We know the New England Patriots are basically average across the board. They have better talent than they have scheme, but they're also decimated by injury. We'll have to see what the middle of that defensive line looks like. As they're trying to integrate guys back in, but ultimately you can do whatever you want against this defense. Teams have proven it time and time again. Miami, they actually were able to stop the run up the middle. So what did the Miami Dolphins do with Devon Achane? They just threw him the ball twice and he scampered into the end zone. So if something isn't working against the New England Patriots, something else can work. The question is, can Anthony Richardson make it work even against a subpar defense? He did it a couple weeks ago. He didn't do it last week. I think he's got a chance, but his rushing upside, he's going to score one touchdown on the ground this game. I think you can bank on that. And so that automatically elevates his floor. So where he is at top 12, I have no issue with that.
Yeah, I think the one guy I'm the most concerned about is CJ Stroud. No one's been more pressured than CJ Stroud this year. It's 191 pressures on the season. The offensive line has been abysmal, but if you look at his metrics behind, he's like 24th in EPA. He's 32nd in completion percentage over expectation. He's 17th in PFF pass grade. He's 27th in QBR. Like, it's been, I know I was down on Stroud, but I was not this down on Stroud going into the year where we're talking about the top 5. Like, it's interesting. Him and Richardson have been two guys that have been really big letdowns in this tier. We're hoping they can take a step forward. Richardson's been really up or down, but it's been more injury. At least he has the rushing floor, right? You have that. With Stroud, It's Jacksonville. You got to make it this week. If you doesn't hit this week, it's kind of like you almost want to drop CJ Stroud if you don't get it at this point. So that's kind of where we're at with him. So this will be a fun one to see how he can do it. Let's head to our tier 3. This where it gets a little bit more interesting. Where guys we have a few more awards, but we still like them overall. QB 13, Jordan Love. The offense did not really need to do much last week against the San Francisco 49ers. Love had a down game against Miami, and how Tua's playing, he's going to have to play a little bit better, so we expect him to have a better game. Matthew Stafford is their quarterback 14, going up against the New Orleans Saints. The tier difference between this is probably the biggest gap we have on players. You have him at 9. I have him at 18. I probably need to bump him up. It looks like I'm a little too low on that, so we'll fix that. Our quarterback 15 is Jared Goff going up against Chicago Bears defense. The Bears defense is good. This is really this is a strength for strength matchup, so I'm curious to see how this goes for Goff. You are the lowest on him. I had no surprise why. It's pretty evident that Bears defense is legit. Our quarterback 16, we just talked about, Tua going against the Green Bay Packers defense. Quarterback 17, Russell Wilson, is going up actually against Cincinnati Bengals defense, which I probably need to move Russ up. This matchup is juicy, and Russ could have a good game. It's just more limitations of that offense overall. And our quarterback 18, rounding out our tier 3, is Geno Smith. So why don't you give us a guy or two you want to talk about here?
I love all these guys, but I'm going to talk about the guy I'm too high on and the guy I'm too low on. Too high on Matthew Stafford at New Orleans. New Orleans, for some reason, does not give it up to quarterbacks, but they give it up to running backs, wide receivers, and they're mediocre against tight ends as well. But they lost Marshawn Lattimore a couple weeks ago. They traded him over to Washington. So they've kind of given up on the season, and rightly so. At the same time, their offense is not nearly as stout as it used to be. We know that the Rams can get home. I don't know that this is going to be a situation where the Rams have to air it out, but we've seen time and time again they're not giving the ball to Kyren Williams. When they do, Kyren Williams puts the ball on the ground. 2 fumbles last week. I really like the receivers in this one. As a result, I really like Matthew Stafford in this one. Not a real threat from the pass rush, not a real threat from the secondary there in New Orleans. And the other guy, Jared Goff, the only reason I'm that low on him is we see what this team can do in the run game. Now, David Montgomery is questionable. He's one of the few guys who's questionable so early in this week. I don't think that that's sticky. There's not going to be anything too detrimental to him, and I assume he'll play if that's the case, and he's a full go, as he should be. Why not just run the ball down the Bears' throats? It's more difficult to pass on them anyway. Detroit Lions can do it. If anybody can do it, Jameson Williams can absolutely go off. You can have Gibbs go off, but I just think it's a Sonic and Knuckles game for Detroit this week.
I read something that since the start of last season, those two have 44 combined touchdowns. Those two guys. So it's been feast nonstop for that offense now. And I mean, this is just a problem with these non-mobile quarterbacks like Goff. If he doesn't get the touchdowns, it's a lower floor. That's unfortunately what it is because they're so good at running with those two guys. That's the best tandem in the NFL right now. It's that way with him. Now in the matchup, we'll see how it goes. The one I struggled the most with this was Geno Smith going up against the Jets
Mhm.
defense, which has just been nowhere close to good. I think they're 29th in EPA since they fired
Yep.
Robert Saleh on defense. Like they're abysmal. So I kind of wanted to raise Geno, but it's really hard to push him up too high. Just we'll see. I think they could have a really good game. So he's kind of the sleeper in this tier for us, I think. Let's
Agree.
go to our tier 4 quarterbacks. This is where it starts to get like, okay, I guess I'm starting this guy, but I don't feel too great about it. It starts out with
Mhm.
Drake May at QB 19, going up against the Colts defense, which has gotten a little bit better, but it's still the Colts defense. I don't think it's that really a good matchup. They're missing guys. I still think we'll see how it goes for me. I think he could be the guy that raises the highest out of this tier, but they're decent options. Our quarterback 20, Sam Darnold going against Aaron Cardinals defense, which the defense has been the strength. The offense has struggled. We'll see which Sam Darnold shows up against this Cardinals defense because it could be a good game for Sam Darnold or it could be a really good bad game. He's just so up and down. Sometimes hard to figure out. Our quarterback 21, we talked about this, Derek Carr, going up against a Rams defense who's really good at generating pressures. We'll see if Carr can stay upright. If he can, I think he can have a decent game. Our quarterback 22 is Kirk Cousins going up against the Chargers defense, which I know they struggled a little bit against the Ravens. That's the Ravens. That's Lamar Jackson. It's a little bit different. If similar to Derek Carr, if they can keep Kirk Cousins upright and avoid the pressure, Cousins will have a good game. But also, this is the problem with the offensive line. Our quarterback 23 is Caleb Williams going up against the Detroit Lions defense, which gives up a ton of passing yards. But if you look at the metrics, the EPAs and everything like that, it's actually a really good defense. So this is why he's lower. And the guy rounding out this tier, Will Levis, our quarterback 24, going up against the Washington defense, which has gotten better as the season has gone on, and that makes sense because it's the Dan Quinn-led defense. Who do you want to talk about this year?
Let's talk about my guy, Sam Darnold. He's my QB 24 this week, so I'm significantly lower on him. I know he just went off against Chicago last week. Jordan Addison had a crazy game. TJ Hawkinson's back in the fold. We love that. But Arizona has just been putting it to opponents 9, 6, and 16 points over their last 3. It's the reason why this team is as good as they are from a record perspective, which is 6 and 5. But they are in first place in the NFC West. Because Kyler Murray and company aren't doing anything. They're so boom bust. Trey McBride's the only guy to trust on offense, and this defense is still getting home and still helping this team win games. Sam Darnold, I'm lower on. Kirk Cousins is interesting only because, like you said, they have to keep him upright against the Chargers, but I think the Chargers will do whatever they want, even absent a running game. If J.K. Dobbins is out, Gus Edwards is serviceable. They're going to score a ton. So I think Kirk Cousins can get there. Drake London, Kyle Pitts, hopefully Darnell Mooney in the fold.
Yeah, like that's as long as they're all healthy because Darnell Mooney is dealing with an injury that could, that limits that offense a little bit because then you're counting other guys you don't want to count on. Yeah, these are kind of the last guys you're comfortably streaming this week. When we get to this next tier of guys, there's one guy I actually like out of this group, but out of the rest of them, I am not excited about this group. So this is our quarterbacks 25 through 30. We'll go through the guys a little quickly because let's be real, you're probably not playing these guys. Starts out with Aaron Rodgers, and that Dreads offense and defense are just struggling across the board. Seahawks seems like they have figured something out, so this could be a problem game for Aaron Rodgers. I would not want to play Rodgers if you could avoid it. Our QB 26 is Jameis Winston going against Denver, and that's all you really need to say. There's going to be turnovers, there's going to be sacks, there's going to be pressures against Denver because they have one of the better front sevens in the NFL. So they got to keep Jameis Winston upright, but he's going to probably pass it 40 times, so he could probably give it the yards. Our quarterback 27, Bryce Young, is the guy that I need to move up rankings. He's got 28. I need to move up. He's the guy I would stream out of this group because he's playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That defense is abysmal, and Bryce Young could have a good game against them. Our quarterback 28, Trevor Lawrence, if he plays, which it looks like he's going to play against Houston, this is why I'm lower on him. If he does play, I'm going to move him up rankings, but you could play him if you needed to. Our quarterback 29, Cooper Rush, going up against the Giants defense, and Cooper Rush the last 2 weeks has given you decent fantasy production. Would not surprise me if he did that again. It's just really hard to boost Cooper Rush up the rankings. And the guy rounding out this tier, quarterback 30, Mr. Tommy Cutlets, Tommy DeVito, going up against that Dallas defense. Who would you play out of this group of guys, Jeremy?
Yeah, I would play Trevor Lawrence. I think, Gabe Davis, we'll see. I don't know what the news is on him, but I think he's out. But everybody else is playing in this game. Obviously, Christian Kirk out for the season. And Trevor Lawrence against that Houston defense, they have just not been good. I know they have a few pieces in the secondary, but Petrie also out toward his pec. We'll see if he returns at all this season. That's a major blow to that defense. And I think Trevor Lawrence can get by, especially with Evan Ingram doing whatever he wants in the middle of that field. Bryce Young is also interesting, like you said, against Tampa Bay. I have both of these guys significantly higher this week. I love Jameis. I'd love to play him. I can't against Denver. I
Stuff.
hate Aaron Rodgers, but against Seattle, you could play him if you had to.
Yeah, like you talk about Houston and Denver, they're top 2 in EPA per pass. Like they are really good. To your point with Houston, though, the injuries they'll probably come down a little bit. They're just really good defenses, man. And this is the problem with these guys in this range. This is why personally I would play Bryce. But yeah, to your point on Trevor Lawrence, he's a really talented quarterback. He was doing okay points per game wise in fantasy production. If he plays, I think he'll be fine to go. What that tells me is like I'm moving Brian Thomas Jr. way up my rankings if that's the case, because that gives him a shot. The rest of our quarterbacks, you're not playing these guys, but we'll talk about them. It's Brendan Allen played against Buffalo. Good luck with that. Desmond Ritter played against Kansas City. That sounds like a nightmare.
Aiden O'Connell, probably.
Yeah, Aiden O'Connell, whatever the situation is, like if it's Mac Jones going against Houston, that sounds abysmal. So these guys, we don't need to focus much on. You're not playing these guys. Even in super flex leagues, like we talked about, play a flex player. All right. Let's move on to tight ends, because there's some good tight ends, and it's a lot more fun to talk about the good tight ends as opposed to the bad quarterback. So let's do that. Let's jump into our tier 1, and my goodness, Taysom Hill was our tight end 1 in standard, and I was like, let's go. Then I moved it to PPR, he dropped down. But let's talk about our tier 1 tight ends, 1 through 6. We're gonna start out. Brock Bowers, tight end 1. He's going up against Kansas City. We talked about this all year. Kansas City is a very juicy matchup. You want to play Brock Bowers against them. Our tight end 2, Trent McBride, going up against the Minnesota Vikings defense. Now this matchup is not the best in the world, but it's McBride. He's got one of the best roles in the NFL. Just get this man touchdown. That's all I'm asking for. Our tight end 3 is Travis Kelce. He is going up against the Las Vegas Raiders. Don't need to say much about that. Las Vegas Raiders, suck on defense. Travis Kelce, really good. You play him. Yep. Our tight end 4 actually is a little bit surprised. TJ Hawkinson. So he's going up against Arizona. And I know we've talked about the Arizona Cardinals defense. They can be had against tight ends. I like that matchup. You should play him. Yep. Tight end 5 is George Kittle. He's going up against Buffalo. With George Kittle, you don't care. You just play him no matter what. Even in a really bad matchup against Buffalo, you still play him. And our tight end 6, David Njoku, going up against Denver Broncos defense, which we talked about their pass defense, how good it is. How are you feeling about this tier 1 of guys? And is there anyone that stands out above the rest for you?
Yeah, it's Kelce against Vegas. He's my tight end 2. I think you worry a little bit about Noah Gray's involvement the last couple of weeks, but I'm not too worried. I think he's the clear number 1 option. He's still getting the targets. He'll find his way into the end zone in this one. Unless Kareem Hunt scores 4 touchdowns, which is possible, yes. I think Kelce gets there. But on the flip side, also Brock Bowers as tight end 1 against that Kansas City defense that for whatever reason cannot, will not, does not stop the tight end. Absolutely. Yeah, you fire both these guys up and you expect big games.
Yeah, like with Bowers, it's it's back and forth with him and Jacoby Myers, but his role is awesome. You just fire him out there. So he still had 10 targets last week. He didn't get there, but the role is there. You just trust it. And against Kansas City, we see that they continually give it fantasy points to guys across the board. Yeah, you just fire them out. Let's go to our tier 2 tight ends. The group that's really strong, and I would say if you have these guys, you're playing them no matter what. Our tight end 7 starting out this tier is Cade Otton. Going up against Carolina, we like Baker in this matchup. We like Cade Otton a lot as well. If you have Cade Otton, firing up. Our tight end 8 is Taysom Hill. I'm significantly higher than everybody else this tier. I have him at 3. You guys have him at 9 and 10. Yeah, he's one of the best roles in the NFL. He's running the routes. Like I love Taysom Hill. If you have him, you should be firing no matter what. Our tight end 9, Evan Ingram. He's back in our lives. If you have Evan Ingram, you play him against the Houston. I know the Houston defense is really good, but it's Evan Ingram. It's particularly if Mac Jones is playing, like he's just going to hyper target Evan Ingram. Yeah. It's going to be really good. The guy that's back into tier 2 that hasn't really been there this whole entire year, it's Jonnu Smith going up against Green Bay. Jonnu Smith's role is awesome. Mm-hmm. It has evolved where he's basically the centralized part of the passing attack. It's wild times in Miami, but hey, Jonnu Smith is living right, and you're ride this until it changes for you. Tight end 11, Dallas Goedert going against Baltimore. Baltimore's tough matchup, but like we talk about with these tight ends, it really starts to fall off this back half of this year, so this is why Goddard's here. And the guy rounding out our second tier is Kyle Pitts going up against the Chargers. This tier seems like it's a wide range where it's really good to kind of not so great. Where are you kind of at with these guys, and who do you want to highlight?
I'll talk about Taysom in a second because we both need to talk about him since he's both of our hashtags. But let me ask you some questions about Kyle Pitts, our tight end 12. Would you play our tight end 13? I'm just going to go down the list here. Hunter Henry over Kyle Pitts this week.
Against yes no? Indy? Yeah, probably. I probably
would. You play Tucker Kraft over Kyle Pitts this week?
Kraft, he had a really good game last week. He's in that Kyle Pitts tier for me. So it's matchup dependent. So yeah, probably because it's Miami. But
would you play Mark Andrews against Kyle Pitts this week over Kyle Pitts this week?
Nah, I'm not playing Mark Andrews against Philly. That's kind of that's my line. I think I'd actually, because I have Disley one spot above Andrews. I think you can make a case for Disley if you wanted to go Disley above him. Like Yeah, he's running all the routes, right? Like I think that's kind of, and then it falls off after that. So yeah, I think you could move Kyle Pitts down to what, like tight end 16? Like that probably feels
Yeah,
about
I
right,
think
right?
so.
Yeah. So like it's just been
That's
so up or down. Like we thought we were getting peak Kyle Pitts, but
sucks.
he's kind of fallen into
Yeah.
this like back end tight end 1, early tight end 2 range where he's involved in the offense, but he's not a focal point of it. We'll see if it ever happens. We want him to be Brock Bowers. We already have a Brock Bowers though, so it's just not gonna happen for him. It's just kind of is what it is. We'll see. Maybe he gets a new landing spot somewhere else after they move on. Not this year, the next year, unless they don't let him. We'll see. So yeah, that just kind of shows you where we're at. Kyle Pitts. We like him, but we're not in love with Kyle Pitts. We just kind of just like, yeah, if you have him, you can play him. Let's go to our tier 3 tight
Well,
ends.
hang on,
Oh yeah, go ahead.
real quick. Kate Otten against Carolina, you're ignoring last week. You're firing him up. He probably
Yes.
won't have the double-digit target games he's been used to. We saw that last week with just 3 targets. However, it's a juicy matchup against Carolina. And Taysom Hill, Jesse, talk about Taysom Hill. He's Mr. Necessary in that offense. He's going to do it all. Is he going to blow up the way he blew up a few weeks back? No. Maybe,
He
but
could. Yeah.
he's probably not going to have the another best season of his career, fantasy game of his career this season. But he's definitely viable each and every week as a tight end 1.
Yeah. He's awesome. Like he's in this stretch of games where it's pretty good matchups across the board. Like week 13, he's got the Rams, right? Week 14, he's got the Giants. The Giants are the one bad matchup. Outside of that, he gets Washington, Green Bay, Vegas, and Tampa, and they're all bottom half like tight end matchups. So you're just gonna fire him up. The only thing that could change for him is if the wide receivers come back. If Olave comes back, if these other guys start coming back, his role probably changes a little bit. But until that happens, man, he's got one of the best roles in the NFL right now. Like he's legit the Swiss Army knife. If you have Taysom Hill, I don't care if you have a really good tight end, flex Taysom Hill. Like that's where I'm at with Taysom Hill because I want the boom. I want those 30 plus points. Is it going to happen? No, it's probably not going to happen. But I'm going to take the shot with Taysom Hill. I'm going to ride it, baby. 60+% of routes, like fire that up. You get the red zone looks. I don't know if Jamal Williams is playing. I'm not really worried if Jamal Williams is playing or not. Jamal Williams has been a nothing burger for the Saints, right? So, yes, I am fully committed to Taysom Hill bid at this point. That's why I was like, tight end 1. Let's just make it happen.
And you mentioned the Giants real quick, but the Giants are, who the Giants are terrible against, even though they're good against tight ends, running backs. And Taysom Hill, we know, just is a tight end by name only. So you fire him up each and every week. It does not matter the matchup.
Yes. He's going to get that rushing touchdown. It is going to be like, that offsets that. So yeah, that'll be what it is. Yep. It's going to be glorious, Taysom Hill. All right, let's jump to these tier 3 tight ends because they're not the best in the world. And this is where it starts to fall off, where you're really in this range of guys and you're like, I don't feel great about these guys. Starts out with Hunter Henry. We just talked about him. He's tight end 13. He's solid against Indy. You could play him. Like a couple of these guys, limited upside. Tucker Kraft is more of the upside shot, I think, against Miami. The floor is a little bit lower with him, but you saw last week he had a really good game. I think he leads all tight ends in yak this year. Like he's been a yak specialist. It's just more like he hasn't earning all the targets and that role's not there. So it's kind of, it's solid. Mark Andrews, tight end 15. Mark Andrews falls into this like Kyle Pitts tier as well. It's just like guys I'm not confident in. But you have these games like last week, he was fine. He was pretty good for you, actually. And in tight end premium league, he was really good for you. Tight end 16, Will Disley. We expected a little bit more than what we got. It was solid from him. Overall, he's still running the role, so I wouldn't worry too much about it. You just keep plugging and playing. Great. Tight end 17, Sam Laporta against Chicago. This is what I do not want to play personally. I want to avoid Sam Laporta if possible in this matchup. I do not like the matchup for him. This also goes to our tight end 18, Dalton Kincaid, the guy rounding out this tier against San Francisco. Both of these guys, I'm not excited to play. And in a lot of situations, you're probably forced into playing them. With this tier 3, how do you feel about these guys? Is there anyone that stands out, or are they all kind of the same tier for you?
No, it's Disley and Andrews. I think Andrews, you can play him. We know that Philly is a super capable. It's a poor choice of words, but they're amazing offense, right? We know Philly's going to score. We know he can throw all over Baltimore. We know Barkley's going to do Barkley things regardless of who he's playing. And that even though it's a bad matchup, he's fine. So Philly will score. And as a result, Baltimore will need to score. They will need to lean on Mark Andrews like they showed they do last game. I think the Isaiah Likely game was an anomaly that happened recently. I know it correlates with everything that we saw at the beginning of the season, but we also know that Mark Andrews was not right at the beginning of the season. He came in, he went off yesterday or 2 days ago. So I'm not super concerned with Mark Andrews. I'm still firing him up in most places. He's my tight end 12 this week. But Will Disley is super interesting as well. Like you said, he still has the role. Who doesn't have the role? Sam Laporta. Who does have the role and does nothing with it? Dalton Kincaid. So it's Will Disley over those guys for the foreseeable future, and like Jonnu Smith and Taysom Hill overall. So
yeah,
weird year.
What's interesting with like the Chargers is the matchup grade for them against the Falcons against Disley is actually pretty poor. And it's a good one you want to target with Disley. I get it, like you're talking about. We kind of want to go back to the well with Disley in this matchup. If it kind of falls off this week, then it'll be a little bit worse. But you kind of know the role he's playing. It's really good. And it's Justin Herbert, man. You just fire that guy up and roll with it. All right, now we're starting to get down to it. Our tier 4, our tight ends 19 through 24. If you are in this range of tight end, I apologize. It's not going to go well for you. There are a couple of guys I do like in this range, but this is just not fun. Zach Ertz against Tennessee. Tennessee is a tough matchup. Zach Ertz. The one outlet I will say for Zach Ertz, if Austin Eckler misses this game, which I expect him to, he's probably going to get more dump offs, so he can be that PPR guy for you in this matchup. Pat Freiermuth at tight end 20. He's the most just meh tight end in the NFL right now. It's just like not really much to talk about. You know what you're getting with Pat Freiermuth. It's probably 3 receptions, 35 yards. Maybe you get a touchdown, maybe you don't. That's the Pat Freiermuth lifestyle right now. Tight end 21, Cole Kmet. I would much rather play Cole Kmet against Detroit. He's just saw 21% target share. He saw double-digit targets. They're probably going to have to throw a lot in this game because Detroit's going to be such offensive force. So I would expect you to just fire up your Chicago options and see how it shakes out for those guys. Our tight end 22, Ferguson, if he plays, I'm expecting Shoemaker to play, so I would just put Shoemaker in this exact spot as him. But yeah, Ferguson, if he's healthy, he just runs more routes. So like he just has the better role. So like you'll fire him up as opposed to Shoemaker. Tight end 23, Dalton Schultz going up against Jacksonville. Jacksonville's defense is atrocious. You could do the Dalton Schultz thing, but it's very limited. The role is just not that great. He needs a touchdown, right? Our tight end 24, a guy who we were excited about early in the year. We're not so excited about anymore. Mike Gesicki. Yes, we had hopes. We had hopes he could be our Taysom Hill. It did not happen. He just, it's for a similar role. It's not great. And speculatively with T. Higgins on the field, he goes to like a 5% target share. It just becomes not much of anything. So I would actually rather probably play Noah Gray than I would play Mike Gesicki if we're doing that too. And this tier, 19 through 24, who's the guy you like and who's the guy that you really do not like?
Yeah, I just can't do Dalton Schultz. We saw Cade Stover get heavily involved last week. Caught a touchdown first of his career, I think it was. So, yeah, the Dalton Schultz experience is over. Like you said, the Mike Gesicki experience is over as well. The Noah Gray experience is over because, as you can see, he's not in our top 24. Even in a great matchup, let's avoid that. But Pat Freiermuth, that experience is over too because Darnell Washington is on that team and Arthur Smith is doing Arthur Smith things. Continues to do that. Surprise, surprise. So if I'm playing anyone here, I'll take a shot on Cole Kmet. After a good game last week, I'll take a shot on Zach Ertz, who continues to be a little more boom bust than we like. But yeah, these guys, you don't want to play them if you have better options, and you should.
Yeah, I think we'll just pivot to the best of the rest because I don't think we need to highlight really 25 through 30. So we'll go through best of the rest. We'll just kind of fly through these guys and talk through them. Like we talked about Noah Gray. Noah Gray is probably the one guy along with Theo Johnson at tight end 28. Like I would play those guys if you're playing anybody out of this tier. Like we talked about, likely the role is super boom bust. He can hit in certain matchups. He can't. It's a decent matchup as far as tight ends go, so you could do it. I don't really want to. Chig Okonkwo, I don't even know why you would fire Chig Okonkwo. I'm just going to be truthful with you. Like, there's no way I'm playing this dude at our tight end 29. Our tight end 30, Tyler Conklin. We got Austin Hooper down here, AJ Barner, Dawson Knox, Darnell Washington we talked about. Is there anybody in this range that interests you, or are you just kind of just avoiding all of these guys?
No, I mean, there's a couple of guys you could. I mean, Shig had a big play last week, came out of nowhere. Am I trusting him with Will Levis? No. Isaiah Likely is always an option, but they have a tough matchup. So I don't love these guys. I think one guy I'll say, if Noah Fant continues to be out, AJ Barner is a good option. He is available. It's possible he finds the end zone. They are in a good matchup against the Jets just because the Jets have just given up on the season. So, that's where we are right now. But no, you should have better options here. Put Darnell Washington in this tier, or some respect on his name, but also do not start Darnell Washington.
Yeah. To your point with Barner, his last 3 games, he's been 84% or more of the snaps in all 3 of those games. He's been 7-4 targets. Like, it's been solid. It's a little bit tougher. Like, the Jets defense is atrocious. So, like, at this point, you could do it. But, yeah, you kind of know this range of player you're talking about. Just shoot for upside of these guys. So that's why we don't mind chasing Darnell Washington the touchdowns or any one of these players, because that's all we're really hoping for, because touchdowns are so important to tight ends. But, yeah, that's going to wrap up our tight ends. If you're this deep into tight end, I would just probably not play the tight end. I would go to a flex player at a running back or an upside wide receiver. Yeah, that'll probably be better, because if you're deciding between Darnell Washington and AJ Barner or like these guys, it's like, you've gone too far, my friend. You've gone too far.
Then you're as sick as we are with this stuff, so we appreciate it.
I'm like, I got to rank these guys, don't I? I'm like, yeah, here we go. Okay, where am I putting them? I don't know. Yeah, that's gonna wrap up our week 13 quarterback and tight end rankings for our Thanksgiving week 13 ranks. So that's it. We'll be dropping our running back show and our wide receiver show probably the same day on Thursday to get these both out, so you guys can have it all for Thanksgiving show and all of that. So stay with us; they'll be coming soon. So for myself, for Aaron, for Jeremy, for SC joining us, yeah, take care, folks, and we will see you tomorrow.
Gobble gobble, motherfucker.
Listen up, closely let the games begin. Top pick sleepers every week.